Capital Logic. Today's case study: how Amazon lost $1 billion on the Fire Phone and still won. We're going to show you exactly how this business model works, where the money actually comes from, and what most analysts miss. Like and subscribe if you want this kind of breakdown every week. Here is what you need to know. Amazon is everywhere. From a voice assistant that wakes you up, to the cloud infrastructure powering half the internet, to the packages that land on your doorstep just hours after you click, this company has woven itself into the very fabric of modern life. A seemingly unstoppable tech titan. Its AI, Alexa, commands a near 70% market share in smart speakers. Its cloud computing arm, AWS, generates tens of billions in revenue annually, dwarfing its nearest competitors. How did a company, once just an online bookseller, achieve such pervasive, almost omnipotent dominance? Well, rewind to June 2014. Jeff Bezos, Amazon's visionary founder, stood on stage, radiating his characteristic blend of quiet intensity and boundless ambition. He was about to unveil Amazon's next big thing, a product he reportedly spent years personally overseeing, a device that promised to redefine how we interact with the world: the Amazon Fire Phone. Bezos spoke of revolutionary features like dynamic perspective, a mind-bending 3D interface that tracked your head movements, and Firefly, an almost magical object recognition tool that could instantly identify anything from a book to a can of soup, and of course help you buy on Amazon. This wasn't just a phone. It was presented as the future, Amazon's bold leap into the most competitive consumer electronics market on Earth. The market, however, had other ideas. The reception was immediate, brutal, and historic. Within months, the Fire Phone became a punchline, its price slashed to pennies, its inventory piling up in Amazon warehouses. By October 2014, Amazon was forced to announce a staggering $170 million write-down for unsold Fire Phone inventory, a public admission of a monumental failure. How could a company so brilliant, so strategically astute, fail so spectacularly? And here's the real twist. What secret did this billion-dollar blunder hold for Amazon's future? Because the story of the Fire Phone isn't just a cautionary tale of hubris. It's the story of how Amazon lost $1 billion, and in doing so, built the foundation for its next era of dominance. To understand the scale of this misstep, we first need to appreciate Amazon's trajectory before the Fire Phone. By 2014, Amazon was already a juggernaut, but its reputation was built on a different kind of disruption. Its e-commerce platform had long since conquered online retail, transforming how people shopped and what they expected from a delivery service. But it was in hardware that Amazon had truly begun to flex its muscles. The Kindle e-reader, launched in 2007, wasn't just a product, it was a revolution. It single-handedly changed the publishing industry, popularizing digital books and demonstrating Amazon's ability to create compelling, ecosystem-defining hardware. It was a masterclass in long-term vision, sacrificing short-term profit for market share and customer loyalty. Then there was AWS, Amazon Web Services. What started as an internal solution for Amazon's own infrastructure needs had, by 2014, quietly become the undisputed leader in cloud computing. It was the invisible engine powering countless startups and enterprises, a testament to Amazon's willingness to build foundational services that others would later rely on. Analysts at the time spoke of Amazon with a reverence usually reserved for Apple. Amazon doesn't just innovate, one tech pundit wrote. It redefines categories. Another observed, Bezos has a Midas touch. Everything he touches turns to gold, eventually. The company was praised for its customer obsession, its relentless pursuit of efficiency, and its almost unparalleled ability to enter new markets and dominate them. So, when Amazon announced the Fire Phone, it wasn't seen as a desperate gamble. It was perceived as the logical, ambitious next step for a company that seemed infallible. It was Amazon, after all, and if anyone could crack the smartphone market, surely it was them. They had the brand, the customers, the cloud infrastructure, and a track record of turning audacious bets into industry standards. What could possibly go wrong? Well, almost everything. The Fire Phone's failure wasn't due to a single misstep, but a cascade of fatal decisions that revealed a fundamental misunderstanding of the smartphone market. First, Amazon assumed customers wanted a shopping device rather than a general-purpose smartphone. This was the core of its strategy. Features like Firefly, designed to identify products for purchase, and dynamic perspective, which allowed for subtle interface shifts and 3D effects, were prioritized. These were novelties, not utilities. While impressive in a demo, they didn't solve real user problems or enhance core smartphone functionality. Users weren't clamoring for a phone that made it easier to buy things. They wanted a device with a robust app ecosystem, a great camera, and seamless communication. Amazon built a phone for Amazon, not for its customers. This misjudgment was compounded by the pricing strategy. The Fire Phone launched at an initial price point of $199 with a 2-year contract, or $649 unlocked. This put it directly against the premium iPhone 5S and Samsung Galaxy S5, devices that not only had superior specs and established brand prestige, but also a vast, mature app ecosystem. Amazon, a newcomer to the smartphone space, was asking consumers to pay top dollar for an unproven device with gimmicky features and a limited app store. To make matters worse, it was exclusively launched on AT&T and TS network in the United States, severely limiting its market reach from the outset. Why would anyone choose a Fire Phone over an iPhone or Galaxy at the same price? The answer, as the sales figures would show, was almost no one. Then there was the ecosystem neglect. The Fire Phone ran on Fire OS, a heavily customized version of Android. But crucially, it lacked access to the Google Play Store and its millions of apps. Instead, users were limited to Amazon's much smaller app store. This was a critical flaw. Smartphone users expect access to their favorite apps, social media, games, productivity tools. By forcing users into a closed, limited ecosystem, Amazon alienated developers and users alike. It was a walled garden in a market that thrived on openness and choice. Finally, there were reports of internal silos and a perceived disregard for user research. Jeff Bezos himself was reportedly deeply involved in the Fire Phone's development, even dictating specific features like the 3D effects. While Bezos' vision has often been a catalyst for Amazon's success, in this case, it seems to have overridden crucial market feedback. Stories emerged of internal teams struggling to make these features genuinely useful and of external market research being downplayed. The Fire Phone was an embodiment of internal conviction over external demand. The market's verdict was swift and merciless. Tech journalists, usually eager to praise Amazon's innovation, were scathing. Reviews called Dynamic Perspective gimmicky, Firefly unnecessary, and the phone itself overpriced. One reviewer famously quipped, "The Fire Phone is a collection of interesting ideas in search of a purpose." But it wasn't just external critics who saw the writing on the wall. Anecdotes from former Amazon employees, later detailed in books like The Everything Store, described growing internal skepticism. Many knew the phone was deeply flawed, but Bezos' direct involvement made it difficult to challenge the direction. The product was pushed forward, a testament to Amazon's day one philosophy of relentless execution, even when the underlying strategy was shaky. The immediate, brutal market rejection became undeniable. Within just 3 months of its July 2014 launch, Amazon slashed the Fire Phone's contract price to $0.99. This rapid, unprecedented price drop was a clear signal of desperation, a public acknowledgement that the device was simply not selling. It was a fire sale for a phone named Fire. Then came the public admission of failure. On October 23, 2014, Amazon announced a $170 million write-down related to the Fire Phone, primarily for unsold inventory. They reported holding $83 million worth of unsold Fire Phone inventory at the end of Q3 2014. The North America Electronics and Other segment, which included the Fire Phone, saw its operating income drop by $170 million compared to the previous year. Amazon's total operating loss for Q3 2014 was $544 million, its largest quarterly loss in 14 years, significantly impacted by the Fire Phone. Analysts estimated that Amazon sold fewer than 35,000 Fire Phones in its first 70 days on the market, a stark contrast to the millions sold by its competitors. The Fire Phone was officially discontinued in August 2015, less than 14 months after its launch. It was a catastrophic commercial failure, a billion-dollar blunder that seemed to prove Amazon, for all its brilliance, was not invincible. But here's where the story gets interesting, because while the Fire Phone itself crashed and burned, the embers of that failure would ignite something far more significant. The very teams, technologies, and hard-won lessons from this debacle were already being quietly repurposed, laying the groundwork for Amazon's next, truly revolutionary product. But the story doesn't end with a simple financial write-off. Because buried within that $170 million inventory write-down, within the wreckage of the Fire Phone, were the seeds of Amazon's next, far more successful technological revolution. This was not just a product failure. It was an incredibly expensive, yet ultimately invaluable R&D project. Amazon, a company built on e-commerce and cloud services, had suddenly plunged headfirst into the cutthroat world of consumer electronics. And they learned a lot. For one, there was a significant hardware expertise gap. Amazon lacked the deep manufacturing and supply chain experience of Apple or Samsung. Building a smartphone, with its intricate components and precise engineering, was a different beast entirely from e-readers. The Fire Phone forced Amazon to confront the complexities of producing a sophisticated device at scale, to forge partnerships with manufacturers, and to refine its entire hardware supply chain and global distribution networks. These were painful, expensive lessons, but they were learned. Crucially, the Fire Phone was a massive investment in cutting-edge software and AI. Remember Dynamic Perspective and Firefly? Those weren't just gimmicks. Dynamic Perspective, with its 4 infrared cameras and head tracking, required sophisticated computer vision and sensor fusion technologies. Firefly, the product recognition feature, demanded robust cloud infrastructure and machine learning algorithms to identify objects, music, and movies in real time. The teams behind these features were at the forefront of AI development. And while the phone itself failed commercially, the investment in these technologies and the talent developing them did not vanish. These were the foundational pieces, the raw intellectual capital, that would soon be repurposed. The Fire Phone also taught Amazon about user experience, or rather, the lack thereof. It showed them that novelty features, no matter how technically impressive, couldn't compensate for a poor app ecosystem, a high price, or a misunderstanding of what users actually wanted from a daily driver smartphone. It was an expensive masterclass in prioritizing utility over flashy, but ultimately unnecessary innovation. And then there was the day one mentality. Jeff Bezos has always championed bold bets and a high tolerance for failure, viewing experiments as essential for innovation. The Fire Phone was perhaps the most expensive experiment in Amazon's history, but it proved that Amazon could build complex hardware, even if the initial product was flawed. It was a testament to their willingness to swing for the fences, even if they sometimes struck out. So what happened to those highly skilled engineers and the sophisticated AI they built? They didn't just pack up and go home. Many of them were reassigned to Lab 126, Amazon's secretive hardware division, the same division that had developed the Kindle. And it's here that the Fire Phone's failure truly becomes a triumph. Just weeks after Amazon announced that $170 million write-down for unsold Fire Phone inventory in October 2014, something else quietly debuted. In November 2014, Amazon released the first Echo, powered by Alexa. This wasn't a coincidence. The voice recognition and natural language processing teams, initially working on Fire Phone features like the always-on microphone for Firefly, became the core of the Alexa project. The Fire Phone's failure, in a strange twist of fate, freed up these resources. It provided critical lessons in integrating AI into consumer hardware and, perhaps most importantly, in understanding the nuances of user interaction with an AI assistant. The Fire Phone's focus on integrating Amazon's ecosystem, though poorly executed on the phone itself, informed the strategy for Alexa as a central hub for Amazon services. The Echo devices, born from the ashes of the Fire Phone, learned from every one of its predecessors' mistakes. They launched at a far more accessible price point, often starting at $99, not $649. They focused on a specific, clear use case, a voice assistant for the home, rather than trying to be an all-in-one smartphone. They did not try to compete directly with Apple or Google in their core markets, but instead carved out a new category. And they gradually built out their ecosystem, inviting developers to create skills for Alexa rather than forcing users onto a closed, limited app store. The hardware team, now seasoned by the Fire Phone's challenges, applied their newfound expertise in miniaturization, sensor integration, and low-power processing to the Echo. The Fire Phone's investment in computer vision and sensor fusion, initially for dynamic perspective, found new life in projects like Amazon Go, the cashierless stores, and even the nascent stages of drone delivery. By 2019, just 5 years after the Fire Phone's spectacular crash, Amazon's Alexa-enabled devices held a staggering 69.7% share of the U.S. smart speaker market. This was not just a pivot, It was a complete domination of a new product category, directly enabled by the hard-won lessons of its predecessor. The ultimate lesson of the Fire Phone is a profound one for any business. True innovation often involves spectacular failures. The Fire Phone was not a waste of $1 billion. It was an incredibly expensive, yet ultimately invaluable R&D project that forced Amazon to mature as a hardware company. It forged the infrastructure, developed the talent, and provided the strategic insights Amazon needed to dominate the next wave of consumer technology. It proved that sometimes you have to burn down the forest to grow a stronger one. The Fire Phone was a failure that was absolutely essential for Amazon's future triumphs. It is a testament to the idea that sometimes the most significant victories are built on the back of your biggest losses. If you found this deep dive into Amazon's strategic failures and unexpected triumphs insightful, make sure to hit that subscribe button. We are constantly dissecting the business world's most fascinating stories, revealing the hidden strategies and unintended consequences that shape our economy. Do not miss our next analysis. That is Capital Logic's breakdown of how Amazon lost $1 billion on the Fire Phone and still won. Every business has a hidden architecture. We find it, we explain it, and we show you what it means. Subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss a case study. We'll be back with another one shortly.